Hey guys, how's it going? Anthony Muthurajah here, back with the QnA Series part 3, I think. I can't even remember the last time I did this. You know what? I need more questions, guys. That's what I need from you all. So keep the questions coming, as silly or as heavy as they can get. All right, so let's get right to it. The first question I have here is from Mark Apesos. I'm not sure if I got that right. I'm sorry. Hi Anthony, question, flat wounds or round wounds? Why and what do you use? Okay, well, I've almost always used round wounds naturally, because that's what most basses come strung with, and that's what you're exposed to for the most part. I did try using flat wounds. They are nice, but they have a very limited array of sounds. Plus, physically, I just never liked the touch of it, for the way I play at least. However, if I'm playing a more, like a particular R&B, soul, Motown kind of a gig, I wouldn't mind using a P bass with a flat wound, but I'll just have a bass dedicated for the flat wound strings and for that kind of music. So yeah, to answer your question, I use round wounds most of the time, and those are my reasons. They are just more versatile. Round wounds are more versatile, and you can really get a ton of gigs done through round wounds. One of the good things about flat wounds, though, is that they have great life to them. They don't really wear out like round wounds. So that's definitely one plus with flat wounds. All right, so let's look at the next question. Could you suggest how exactly to study melody? That's a very interesting question, because I feel like melodies are often undermined. But the thing with melody is that it really has to come only from one place, and that is your mind. For example, if I took my bass and I did this, I just have to play those 3 notes, and I'm pretty sure everybody in the room will start singing the rest. Right? And how is that possible? You're able to recognize immediately, right? So now, regardless of what happens on the bottom, now I've changed the harmony around, but the melody is still staying, so even a regular person can latch onto the melody, right? So what I realized was that when a melody is strong, in the sense that it's memorable, it has something to capture you by, besides it being complicated or simple or whatever, but it has a captivating side to it. It's got a hook. It's very hard to unhear it. For example, I recently recorded on a friend's album, which is going to come out soon, so keep your eyes out and ears out for that. There's this tune in 9/8 with a very nice melody, but it's in 9/8. It's pretty complex, if you want to say. But my brother, who's not a musician, can sing it to the T. He can sing it in perfect time and in perfect pitch, which just never made sense to me. And I just actually asked him, "How do you remember it?" And he said, "It's just a nice melody." So that's when it really hit me that melodies are something that they really need to grab you. So, for example, I know many people, when they hear the opening line to Havona, it's such a strong melody. Right? So, when it comes to studying melody as an educational thing, what I try to do is I try to create some sort of a memory out of the melody in my mind. So, for example, when I hear this, it's immediately Christmas. It's Jingle Bells. That's what I hear, right? Or if I take that's Hark the Herald. But these are such simple melodies. That's the ridiculous thing, but they are so strong. And then if you take the music of Alan Holdsworth, which has beautiful melodies too, but it's surrounded by a very different environment of harmony. and form and rhythmic structure. So again, that's like a different take on melody, but the idea is the same for me. It's to create a memory. You want to be able to retain some form of memory. So when you're studying a phrase or a lick or a bass line, try to capture it like you won't hear it again. You want to remember it for life. So it's a little philosophical, but I think that's what it works, in my opinion, when you try to captivate the moment that way, the melody that way, or the groove or whatever. Try to take a picture, a mental picture, an oral picture with whatever is going on. All right. Now the next question is, I've got variants of it, so I'm not going to look at my phone for that. And that is, how do I keep up with playing different instruments and what came first? Okay, now first of all, I don't like to call myself a multi-instrumentalist, because I think a multi-instrumentalist, in my opinion, is somebody who doesn't play one particular instrument properly, right? If you ask me, I will call myself a bass player first. It's my main instrument. It is what I am primarily. Ironically, it's the last instrument I picked up. What came first was the drums. I am originally a drummer. I grew up playing in church. Then I started playing heavy metal. And when I was getting to heavy metal, the guitar came along. So the second instrument was the guitar. And I even entered music college for a bit as a guitar player, but that's where I had a change of heart and I decided to start playing bass. I just felt the bass was more like home. It felt right physically and musically. And the other thing that made me switch to bass is just the reality of how many guitar players are there just trying to make a living. And I don't doubt myself and my abilities as a guitar player, but I don't want to hustle too much. I want to live a normal, comfortable life as a musician without any hustling. So I thought, there's always a shortage of bass players almost anywhere on the planet. I've seen this. I haven't been to too many countries, but where I've been, there's just not too many bass players most of the time. So you will not run out of work as a bass player. So that's why I stuck to bass, and eventually I just fell in love with it, and that's my main thing now. So I don't necessarily sit down and dedicate a set number of hours a day or a week to particular instruments. There are days I wake up and I just don't touch my drums, for example. Actually, for the last month, I've barely played my bass ever since I got my Telecaster. So there's no such rule I follow of how much I need to practice each. But the truth is, if you play one instrument at a very proficient level, and if you can get by on the other instruments, it'll really push your playing on those particular instruments. I have a friend, amazing Cuban musician who's based out here in Dubai. He's a phenomenal saxophone player who's actually a clarinet player, and he's a monster clarinet player, but he plays trumpet, he plays flugelhorn, and he's an amazing piano player. But if you ask him, he would say the same thing, that saxophone and clarinet is his main thing. And I totally can relate to that, because it is your main thing. You don't practice all the other instruments, but your main instrument somehow affects the other stuff you do, right? So I hope that answers that question. So that's it for this part. Please bring in more questions and keep them coming, guys. I would love to answer more questions. All right, I'll see you guys soon. Until the very next one, peace.